fire soldiers fighting fire demons using unique science-based weapons. I like this already. Welcome back, anime fans. I'm your host, Manga Horse, and for today I wanted to talk about the amazing show Fire Force for the first time. To be honest, when Fire Force was first announced, I wasn't very impressed. I read the premise review and saw the characters, which among them were a knight, a samurai, a nun, and a boy with a very disturbing smile. It seemed to me like another over-exaggerated anime about a bunch of insane characters that probably really love fire and happens to also fight fire. But after watching only the first episode, I realized that this show has a lot more to offer, and I'm so happy I decided to try it out and to prove myself wrong. I bet most of you watching are already fans of the show, but for anyone who is not familiar with it, or if you don't know if you should watch it, here's a little preview. Fire Force takes place in the year 198 of the Solar Era in Tokyo. In this world there is a phenomenon called spontaneous human combustion, where human beings are suddenly turned into living infernos called infernals. In order to fight the infernals, the Fire Force was created. Not to be confused with the firefighters who fight regular fires, the fire soldiers combined of regular people and people with special powers that can manipulate heat and flames, and some that can even create them out of thin air. One of those special ability people is our protagonist, Shinra, who joins Fire Force Station 8 in order to solve the mysterious fire that burned his house years ago and killed his mother and baby brother. If I had to summarize the show in a single word, I would probably describe it as fun. But obviously, there is so much more to it, alongside a compelling story, an unknown past, a mysterious antagonist, amazing fighting scenes, and most of all, a range of colorful and very unique characters. In today's video, I will focus on one of the most loved characters of this show, the character of the King Knight, Arthur Boyle. We will talk about his personality, power and abilities, and even touch on his past, and find out if he really is a real knight. If you want to see more Fire Force video about Shinra or any other character, don't forget to subscribe and help me get to 1000 subscribers, and also give this video a little like to let me know you've enjoyed it. Now, what is the best way to describe Arthur? Arthur is... Okay, there isn't a good way to say it, but Arthur is an idiot. And wait, don't get mad at me, this is actually how every other character in the show looks at him, including Shinra, who constantly reminds him of how stupid he really is. Arthur being simple-minded is clearly mentioned as one of his character traits, and actually his mental state is the key to understanding Arthur's power and ability. Arthur is 17 years old, and he is a third-generation fire user, which makes him one of the people who can create and manipulate flames without turning into infernals. But unlike his teammates, Arthur doesn't fight using flames. Instead, he carries an empty sword handle, from which Arthur creates a blade made of plasma. First, we need to understand something about Arthur. Although he's not that smart, he's extremely proud of himself, and he always seeks justice. The more proud and knightly he feels, the more powerful he becomes. His stupidity makes it easy to manipulate Arthur into feeling good about himself, and by that, turn him into a complete powerhouse. We first get to see this in one of the funniest scenes I've seen in a while, when Arthur is led to believe that a donkey's head on his crotch is actually a noble steed, and while being in a delusional state, thinking he is a knight, he was unstoppable. That is of course until he saw what he really looked like, what made him feel not knightly at all, and therefore his power was significantly lowered. That is such a unique way to create a powerful and complicated character. Arthur's powers are affected directly from his mind, and as long as he is in his own delusional state of greatness, his powers just keep on growing. But besides his mental state, what makes Arthur so powerful? First of all, you need to understand that Arthur's sword, which is named Excalibur after the famous sword of King Arthur, is just a prop, and Arthur doesn't really need it in order to create his plasma blade. We later see that he can create his blade using other objects, but being the simple-minded that he is, in his mind a sword is the symbol of a knight, and therefore he is much more powerful using his sword blade. Later on we see that even switching hands will lower his powers, and fighting with his left hand makes him much weaker. So how does Arthur create his plasma sword? First, we need to understand what is plasma. In nature, we have 4 states of matter: solid, liquid, gas, and finally, plasma. Plasma is created when gas is heated to a certain level where its molecules break apart and begin to move much more freely. This is a state of plasma. So how much heat do you need to use in order to create plasma, you ask? Oh, not that much, only around 12,000 degrees Celsius. So yeah, that's pretty hot. That is the amount of heat you need to apply in real life in order to turn the gases in the air into a plasma torch. So how does Arthur use this? Arthur heats up the air surrounding his body and focuses it on the handle of his sword. He then heats up the air to such an extreme degree that the air turns into a long plasma torch, which its size depends on how much power is invested in the process and of course on Arthur's state of mind. In our world, plasma torches are used especially for cutting conductive metals, meaning objects that have electric conductivity. That means that plasma is very effective and also affected by electricity and magnets, and that is also the reason why electric powers didn't work on him. And that just means he applied much more energy, and if it was the other way around, the electricity would have affected his sword instead. Plasma is one of the most interesting things in our universe. It is said to be actually 98% of the entire universe outside of Earth. You can even see plasma in real life as well. For example, the lightning in the middle of the storm is actually plasma. That is the spark we see in the sky. The aurora borealis is also an example for plasma. You can also find low power plasma in neon signs and, of course, in one of those cool plasma balls. They have a very low energy source, so they are not dangerous, but you still shouldn't use them if you have any heart conditions or any electric medical devices. Arthur's ability to use plasma like this just shows us how powerful he is, and we'll probably see him get even stronger in the next season. Besides that, Arthur is an awesome and funny character that lives in its own personal world, convincing himself of his own superiority all the time, and by that increasing his own self-esteem and becomes much more powerful. And if you ask me, that is one unique and innovative way to gain powers, even in a Japanese anime. And now, for one of the biggest questions, who is Arthur, and is he a real knight or a king? To answer that, we need to look back at Arthur's past in the manga, and this point is considered to be a little spoiler, so take this into consideration if you decide to keep on watching from now. Arthur's family lost their restaurant due to a food poisoning accident, and later on, a fire even destroyed the entire place. Their restaurant appeared in the news and they couldn't work, which made his family struggle in life. One day, his mother asked him to call his father to tell him dinner is ready. Arthur finds his dad sleeping with his hat over his head. He asked his dad what he was looking inside the hat. His father smiled and covered Arthur's face with the hat. He told them that if he looks deep into it, he will see something. When Arthur says he doesn't see anything, his father tells him to look harder, and from that point, Arthur's imagination took over and he saw various things such as castles and knights, and in his mind, he saw his parents happy and dancing together. The next morning, he finds a letter from his parents telling him that they have gone on an adventure to save the world, and while they are gone, he is the king in charge of protecting the castle. While most of us understand that Arthur's parents simply abandoned him, Arthur's mind protected him from this childhood trauma and instead nourished a sense of justice and nobility into him, and Arthur's sad past is actually what shaped him to become the character he is today. So maybe being not that smart is what saved young Arthur, and who knows what would have become of him if he was smarter. If you enjoyed this video and you want me to make more like it for a different character, please tell me in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. I'm so close to 1000 subscribers and you can really help me out. You can find me on all of your favorite social medias, and if you want to help me grow my channel, feel free to check my new Patreon page. That is all for today, my anime friends, and I will see you all real soon. And don't forget that when you love yourself enough and apply enough heat, you can turn any donkey into a mighty, majestic steed.